The blacksmith heard the name first. He dropped his hammer, didn't pick it up for a full minute, just stood there in his forge staring at the old man who'd said it, like he'd heard a ghost speak. Jacob Ross had been shoeing horses in that valley for 23 years. He'd heard a lot of names: outlaws, lawmen, drifters with reputations that rode ahead of them like dust clouds. None of them had ever made him drop his hammer. Until that Tuesday morning when Henry Garrett walked into his shop and said 2 words: Sarah Drummond. Jacob's hands went still. The hammer hit the dirt floor with a sound that seemed louder than it should have been. The old homesteader stood in the doorway waiting.
Every strike
Not rushed,
shapes the metal,
not
Deb.
apologetic, just waiting for Jacob
Same way
to find
trouble
his voice
shapes a
again.
man.
You're sure? Jacob said finally. I'm sure. Henry, you know what you're asking for. The old man nodded, slow, deliberate. I know exactly what I'm asking for. Jacob looked at him, really looked, saw the tiredness in Henry's eyes, the kind that comes from too many nights lying awake, too many mornings wondering if today's the day they come back, too many weeks of being alone on land that's too big for one man to defend. How bad is it? Jacob asked. Bad enough. The Broken Spur Company. Henry nodded. Jacob bent down, picked up his hammer, set it on the anvil like it weighed more than it did. They know you went looking for her. Not yet. They will. I know. A long silence. The forge fire crackled. Somewhere outside, a horse
I wonder what
stamped in the
tomorrow
dust.
brings.
When
Seems
are you
quieter
leaving?
than usual
Jacob
tonight.
asked. Now,
Maybe that's a good thing.
you want me to
Sometimes
tell anyone?
quiet is all you need.
Henry thought
I
about
told
it.
you, Marshall,
Shook
that
his head.
shipment belongs to me.
They'll know soon enough.
The
He turned
railroad
to
says
leave,
otherwise.
stopped in the doorway, looked back. You knew her husband, James. Jacob nodded. I did. He was a good man. Mary said the same thing. Said if trouble came and the law couldn't reach, find his widow. Henry's voice was quiet, almost like he was talking to himself. Said she'd know what to do. Mary was right about most things. He was right about everything. Henry walked out into the morning light. Jacob watched him go, watched him mount his horse, watched him ride northwest toward the Dry Creek Road, toward the place most people had forgotten even had a cabin anymore. Jacob stood there for a long time after the dust settled. Then he walked to the saloon. By noon, the whole town knew. The storekeeper heard it from the doctor heard it from the deputy heard it from the blacksmith who'd walked into the saloon at 10 in the morning and said 3 words that changed the temperature of the room. Henry found her. That's all it took. The men at the bar went quiet. Not the kind of quiet that comes from not knowing what to say, the kind that comes from knowing exactly what it means and not wanting to be the first one to say it out loud. Someone finally asked the question everyone was thinking. Found who? Jacob looked at him. Drummond's widow. The room stayed quiet. The one from the ambush? Someone asked. That's the one. I thought she was dead. The law thought so too. The law was wrong. More silence. Then the barkeeper spoke up, voice low, careful. Why would Henry go looking for her? Jacob didn't answer right away. He poured himself a whiskey, drank it slow, set the glass down gentle. Because the Broken Spur Company told him he had until first snow to sell his land. And Henry's not selling, and he knows what happens to people who don't sell. So he hired a woman. The barkeeper sounded skeptical. Not a woman, Jacob said. The woman. The one whose husband died trying to stop the Blackwater smuggling operation 10 years ago. The one who killed 3 of them before they left her for dead. He looked around the room, at faces that were starting to understand. The one people stopped talking about when strangers walked into town. A pause. She coming back here? Someone asked. If Henry convinced her. And if he didn't, Jacob picked up his hammer from the bar
I
where
need
he'd
these
set it.
supplies by
Looked at
sundown.
it. Then Henry Garrett's
That's
going
a
to
lot
die
of
on
goods,
that land.
ma'am.
Alone.
Are you
Just like
expecting
Mary.
trouble?
He walked out. The saloon stayed quiet for a long time after that. Deputy Thomas Wade was new to the territory. 6 months new. Young enough to still believe the badge on his chest meant something. Old enough to have started noticing it didn't always mean enough.
Begging your pardon, ma'am.
He'd heard the name
wagon
Drummond
wheel is
before.
repaired and ready.
Heard it
That's
whispered
good to hear,
in the same
Silas.
way people
We'll fetch it
whisper about
directly.
ghosts. But he'd never gotten the
Ma'am,
full
I
story.
understand your reluctance,
Just
but folks are
pieces.
saying you were the
A
last one to
deputy
see.
marshal, an
What
ambush.
folks say and what's
widow
true are
who
two
vanished.
different things, Deputy.
He found Jacob at the forge that afternoon. Tell me about her, Wade said. Jacob looked up from the horseshoe he was shaping. About who? Sarah Drummond. Jacob set down his tongs, wiped his hands on his apron, looked at the young deputy with the expression of a man deciding how much truth someone can handle. What do you want to know? Everything. Jacob smiled. Not happy, just tired. Everything's a long story, son. I've got time. Jacob gestured to a stool. Wade sat. James Drummond was a deputy marshal, Jacob began. One of the good ones. The kind that didn't look the other way when money changed hands. The kind that made people nervous just by existing. He picked up the horseshoe again, examined it. 10 years ago, he was escorting witnesses. Testimony about smuggling routes through the canyon. Guns, silver, stolen cattle, all moving south to Mexico.
They found him
through
down by the
routes
creek
nobody was
this morning.
supposed to know about. What happened?
It was your brother.
They hit him at night. 12 men, maybe more. James went down in the first volley. Jacob's voice got quieter. But Sarah was riding rear guard. Nobody expected that. She put down 3 of them before they broke contact. Wade leaned forward. She killed 3 men. 3 that we know of. Could have been more. Jacob set the horseshoe in the water. It hissed. They left her for dead. Shot twice. Lost a lot of blood. The law found her 2 days later, barely alive. They got her to a doctor. She survived. Then what? Then she vanished. Soon as she could ride, she disappeared. Most people figured she went east, back to family, back to civilization. Jacob looked at Wade. But she didn't go east. She went 15 miles northwest, past the dry creek, built a cabin where nobody goes, lived there alone for 10 years. Why? Because men like Elias Blackwater don't stop. They don't forget. And Sarah Drummond knew that if she stayed visible, they'd come for her. So she made herself invisible. Wade was quiet for a moment. And now Henry's bringing her back. If she'll come, will she? Jacob thought about it. Depends on what Henry says. Depends on what she sees when she looks at his land. He picked up his hammer. But if she comes, deputy, you need to understand something. What's that? She's not coming to defend a homestead. She's coming because she sees something bigger, something worth fighting for. Jacob looked at him hard. And when Sarah Drummond decides something's worth fighting for, people die. Wade stood up, adjusted his hat. I should tell Sheriff Shaw. Shaw already knows. How? Because Shaw's been pretending not to notice the broken spur company for 6 months.
And the wagon provides
And now
temporary
he's got a
shelter by the
choice.
south
They
end.
could still flank us
Stand
from
with
that
the law
ridge.
or keep standing aside. Jacob went back to his work. My guess, he'll keep standing aside. Wade walked toward the door. Stopped. You knew James Drummond. I did. Was he as good as people say? Jacob nodded. Better. And Sarah? Jacob was quiet for a long moment. Then, she was the reason James could do his job. Because he knew if something happened to him, she'd finish it. He looked
Map
up,
shows the
met
crossing
Wade's
right
eyes.
here. But the
Turns out
notes
he
say
was
the
right.
trail washed out last
Henry
spring.
Garrett rode northwest
We best
through
stick to the
heat
high
that made
ground.
the air shimmer. 15 miles. Past the dry creek that only ran 3 months a year. Past the old cottonwood that marked the boundary
Evening,
of
ma'am.
land people actually
I heard
claimed.
tell you were harboring fugitives.
Past the point where
Where
the
is he?
road became a trail,
That ain't your
and the
concern,
trail
Deputy.
became a memory.
Right out.
He was 71 years old. His wife Mary had been dead for 6 years. The land they'd built together was all he had left. And men who worked for Elias Blackwater wanted it. Not because it was good land. It was. But that wasn't why. They wanted it because it sat on something valuable. Something most people didn't know existed. A route, a passage, a way through the canyon that opened onto trails heading south. Trails that hadn't been used in 20 years. Trails that men like Blackwater wanted to use again. Mary had known. She'd known 30 years ago when they'd first staked their claim. She'd walked the land with him and pointed to the canyon mouth and said, "Someone's going to want this someday, Henry. When they do, you don't let them have it." He'd promised her, and then she'd died. And he'd kept the promise alone. Kept it through drought, through hard winters, through the loneliness that comes when the person you built something with isn't there to see it anymore. But now the Broken Spur Company had come, and Henry knew he couldn't keep the promise by himself. So he was doing what Mary had told him to do on her deathbed. Find Drummond's widow. She'll know what to do. The cabin appeared just before sunset. Small, set back in the rocks where you wouldn't see it unless you were looking.
Fall back.
Smoke coming from the chimney. A horse in a small corral. Everything neat. Everything deliberate. Henry stopped his horse 50 yards out. Waited. The door opened. She stepped out, rifle across her shoulder, not pointing it at him. Not exactly. Just carrying it the way some people carry walking sticks. Natural. Easy. She looked at him. Didn't say anything. Henry took off his hat. "Mrs. Drummond." She nodded. Once. "Mr. Garrett." So she knew who he was. That was something. "Mary sent me," Henry said. Sarah's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes did. "Mary's dead. 6 years now. I'm sorry. So am I." Henry held her gaze. "But before she died, she said something. Said if trouble came and the law couldn't reach, I should find you. Mary didn't know me. She knew James." Sarah went very still. Henry continued, quiet, respectful. "She said James Drummond's widow would know what to do when good people needed help, and the law was too far away." A long silence. Wind moved through the rocks. The horse in the corral stamped once. "What kind of trouble?" Sarah asked. "The kind that comes with money behind it." Sarah Drummond set the rifle against the door frame, gestured to the porch. "Sit." Henry climbed down from his horse, tied it, walked to the porch, sat on the bench Mary would have liked. Simple, well made. The kind of furniture you build when you're planning to stay. Sarah went inside, came back with 2 cups of coffee, handed him one, sat across from him on a stool she'd probably made herself. "Tell me everything," she said. Henry told her. About the land. About the spring Mary had found 30 years ago. About building the homestead together. About Mary's death. About the loneliness after. Then about the Broken Spur Company. They'd arrived in the territory 8 months ago. Quiet at first, buying land from people who wanted to sell, offering fair prices, doing everything legal. But then the people who didn't want to sell started having problems. Fences cut, cattle scattered, barns burning. The kind of accidents that aren't accidents, the kind that make a point. 3 homesteads had sold in the last 6 months, all to the same buyer. A land company registered out of St. Louis. Nobody local knew who actually owned it. "And the law?" Sarah asked. Henry's expression darkened. "Sheriff Shaw used to be a good man. Used to. What changed? 6 months ago, someone burned his barn. Not his house, just the barn. Nobody got hurt. But Shaw got the message." Henry sipped his coffee. Now he's real careful about what he investigates and what he doesn't. Sarah nodded, understanding without judgment. "And the Broken Spur came to you. 3 weeks ago, 10 men, led by someone they call Silas Thorne." Henry set down his cup. He was polite, said Mr. Blackwater was interested in my property, said he'd make a fair offer, said I should think about it. "And you said—" I said no. "What did he say to that?" "He said I had until first snow to reconsider. Said accidents happen to people who wait too long to make smart decisions." Sarah was quiet, thinking. "How much land do you have?" "Section and a half." As "Water rights to the spring." "The spring." "Mary found it 31 years ago. Feeds underground to the whole valley. If someone controlled that spring, they'd control the water supply for every homestead downstream." Sarah looked at him different now. "That's what they want, not the land, The water. That's what I thought too, at first. But, Henry leaned forward. But then I started noticing things. Wagon tracks heading northwest from my property. Fresh ruts, recent. I followed them once. They lead to the old canyon trail. Sarah went very still. The smuggling route. I thought that was shut down 20 years ago. It was. Sarah's voice was flat, cold. After James died. Henry nodded slowly. Someone's opened it back up. They sat in silence. The sun was setting, shadows getting long, the air cooling in the way it does in high desert country. I'm done with that life, Sarah said finally. I know. I buried it with James. I know that too. Then why come here? Henry looked at her, really looked. Because Mary asked me to, and because I think you're the only person who can see what's really happening. He stood up. But I'm not here to force you into anything, Mrs. Drummond. I'm just here to ask. Ask what? Come look at my land. That's all. Just look. If you see what I think you'll see, maybe you'll change your mind. If you don't, I'll ride back alone and I won't bother you again. Sarah didn't answer right away. She looked at the horizon, at the last light fading, at the life she'd built here. Small, quiet, safe. Finally she said, "How many men did you say?" 10, maybe more. Armed, all of them. Professional. Henry thought about it. Thorne is, the way he talked, the way he moved. He's done this before. Sarah nodded, like she was filing that away. Give me a minute. She went inside. Henry stood on the porch, waiting. Not sure what he was waiting for. Not sure if she'd come back out and tell him to leave. Not sure if he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life or the smartest decision. The door opened. Sarah came out. She'd changed. Not much.
Every
but
strike
enough.
shapes the metal,
Different
Deb.
boots, different coat.
Same
The
way
kind you wear
trouble
when you're
shapes a
planning to
man.
ride. She had a saddlebag over her shoulder, the rifle in her hand. She looked at him. I'll come look. That's all. I'm not promising anything else. Henry nodded. That's all I'm asking. She walked to the corral, saddled her horse with the efficiency of someone who'd done it 10,000 times. Every movement deliberate, every strap checked twice. Henry watched her, saw the way she moved, saw the care she took, saw something he hadn't seen in 6 years, someone who knew how to survive. They rode south as the stars came out. Sarah didn't talk much, just rode, watching, reading the land the way some people read books. Henry let the silence sit, didn't try to fill it, understood that silence was its own kind of language out here. After an hour, she spoke.
I wonder what tomorrow
This
brings.
Thorne,
Seems
what's he
quieter
look
than
like?
usual tonight.
tall,
Maybe that's a
lean,
good thing.
dark
Sometimes
hair going
quiet is all
gray,
you need.
moves like a
I
man
told
who's
you,
fought
Marshall, that
before and
shipment
won.
belongs to me.
How old? 40,
railroad says
maybe
otherwise.
45. Scars. Henry thought about it. Didn't see any, but he wore gloves, even in the heat. Sarah nodded, like that meant something. They rode another mile. You said 10 men, Sarah said. You sure? I counted. Could be more. They all stay together. I've seen them camped northwest of my land, in the foothills. How far? 3 miles. Maybe 4. Sarah was quiet again, thinking, calculating. Henry could almost see her mind working, mapping terrain, counting distances, measuring angles. What are you thinking? He asked. She didn't answer for a long moment. Then, I'm thinking your wife was smarter than most people. Mary, she saw it, didn't she? 30 years ago. She saw that this land wasn't just land. Henry nodded. She said it was a responsibility. Said whoever owned it had to be the kind of person who'd use it right. She was right. They rode the rest of the way in silence. They reached Henry's homestead just before midnight. Sarah stopped her horse on the ridge overlooking the valley. Didn't ride down yet, just sat there, looking, reading. Henry waited. patient, understanding that this was part of it, the assessment, the judgment. Good land, Sarah said finally. Mary thought so. Well watered. The spring feeds 3 creeks downstream. Sarah nodded, still looking, not at the house, not at the barn, at the approaches, at the high ground, at the places someone could watch from, could attack from. I'll need to see it in daylight, she said. Of course. They rode down. Henry showed her the barn, the water trough, the small bunkhouse where Hans used to sleep during harvest season. No one lives here but you, Sarah asked. Just me. Had 2 hands until last year. They left after the broken spur started making noise. Smart. Or scared. Same thing sometimes. Henry showed her the spare room. Small, clean, a bed, a chair, a lamp. You can stay here tonight, he said. Sarah looked at him. I'll sleep in the barn. The bed's more comfortable. I know, but I want to see the approaches. Easier from the barn loft.
I need these supplies by
Henry understood.
sundown.
There's blankets
That's
up
a lot
there.
of goods, man.
I'll find them.
Are you
She
expecting
took her
trouble?
saddlebag and rifle, walked to the barn. Henry watched her go, watched her climb the ladder to the loft, watched the lamplight go on up there. Soft, controlled, just enough to see by. He went inside, lay down in his own bed.
Begging your
Didn't
pardon,
sleep
ma'am.
much.
The wagon
Kept
wheel
thinking
is
about
repaired
Mary.
and ready.
About
That's
what
good to
she'd
hear,
said,
Silas. We'll fetch
about
it
whether
directly.
he'd done the right thing.
Ma'am,
Around
I understand
3
your
in the morning,
reluctance,
he
but
got
folks
up,
are saying you were the
walked to
last one to
window,
see him.
Looked at the
What
barn.
folks say and what's
The
true
lamp
are
was
2
still
different
lit in
things,
the loft.
Deputy.
Sarah was watching. Dawn came cold and clear. Henry found Sarah outside. She'd already walked the perimeter. He could tell by the tracks. She'd circled the entire property. Slow, methodical, reading the ground like a book. Coffee, he offered. Please. They sat on the porch. She drank slow, eyes always moving, always watching. What did you see? Henry asked. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then, how long since you checked the north fence line? 2 days ago. Why? Someone's been there since. Henry sat up straighter. You sure? 3 horses, walked the fence, stopped at the corner post, stayed for maybe 10 minutes, then rode northwest. When? Yesterday, afternoon. Henry felt something cold in his chest. I didn't see anyone. They didn't want you to. Sarah set down her coffee, stood.
They found
Show
him
me the
down by the
canyon
creek
approach.
this morning.
They walked northwest, through
was your
grass
brother?
that was still wet with dew, past the fence line Sarah had mentioned. Henry saw the tracks now, clear as day, wondered how he'd missed them, but he knew how. He was a farmer, a builder, not a tracker. Sarah was. They reached the canyon mouth after 20 minutes. Sarah stopped, looked at the ground, then at the rocks, then up at the high walls on either side. Mary found this, she asked. She did. Said it was the prettiest place on the property. Sarah knelt, ran her hand over the dirt. It's more than pretty. Henry watched her fingers trace something in the dust, something he couldn't see. What is it? He asked. Wagon ruts. Old ones. No. Sarah stood, pointed. See how the stone's worn here? That's from iron wheels. Heavy ones. And this grass. It's been crushed, recently, within the last week. Henry looked. Saw it now that she was showing him. Someone's been moving cargo. A lot of it. She walked deeper into the canyon. Henry followed. The walls rose higher on either side. The air got cooler, the light dimmer. Sarah stopped at a place where the canyon bent, knelt again, picked up something. What is it? Henry asked. She held it up. A spent shell casing, brass, fresh. Someone's been practicing, she said. Practicing what? Shooting. She pocketed the casing, kept walking. The canyon opened after another 100 yards, revealed a passage Henry had seen before but never really thought about. A natural route through the rocks, wide enough for wagons, protected from view by the canyon walls.
We set up covering
Sarah
fire
stood at
from
the
the barn
opening,
here, and the
looking
wagon
north,
provides temporary
toward
shelter by the
Mexico.
south
They
end.
could still
Toward
flank
the
us from
border
that
that was
ridge.
maybe 60 miles away if you knew the trails. This is it, she said quietly. This is what, the route, the one James died trying to shut down. She turned, looked at Henry. Your land doesn't just sit on water rights, it sits on the only safe passage for moving contraband south without going through official crossings. Henry felt the pieces clicking into place. That's why they want it. That's why they need it. If Blackwater controls your land, he controls access to this canyon.
The map shows the
And if he
crossing
controls
right
the
here.
canyon, he can
But
move
the notes
anything
say
he
the
wants.
trail washed out
Guns,
last spring.
silver,
We best
stolen
stick to the
cattle,
high ground.
all of it invisible, all of it profitable. How much money are we talking about? Sarah thought about it. Enough to kill for, enough to buy sheriffs,
Evening, ma'am.
enough to make 10
heard
men
tell you
ride
were
into a
harboring
valley and
fugitives.
threaten an old
Where is it?
man.
That
She
ain't
looked
your
at him.
concern, deputy.
More than
right
enough.
out.
Henry sat down on a rock, suddenly tired, suddenly understanding how big this really was. I thought they just wanted the water, he said. They want both. Water's the reason they can tell people. The canyon's the reason they actually care. And if I sell, they'll use this route. People will die because of it. Guns will cross the border. Money will flow to men like Blackwater. Sarah's voice was hard, cold. And 10 years ago, my husband will have died for nothing. Henry looked at her, saw something in her eyes he hadn't seen before. Not anger, not grief, something colder, purpose. What are you thinking? He asked. Sarah didn't answer right away. She walked to the canyon wall, put her hand on the stone, stood there for a long moment. Then she turned around. I'm thinking this isn't about your land anymore, Henry. Her voice was quiet, absolutely certain. This is about stopping them before they do what they did to James to someone else. You're staying. It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. I'm staying. They rode back to the homestead in silence. Sarah's mind was working. Henry could see it.
All
She
right,
was
man,
mapping,
fall back.
planning,
We're pulling out.
calculating fields of fire and approach vectors and all the things a person thinks about when they're preparing to defend a position. How long do we have? She asked. Until first snow, maybe 6 weeks. They won't wait that long. Why not? Because they know you went looking for help. Word spreads in small territories. And if they're smart, and I think they are, they'll come sooner rather than later. Henry thought about that. How soon? Days, maybe a week. They reached the homestead just before noon. The sun was high, hot, the kind of heat that makes everything shimmer. Sarah dismounted, started walking the property again, this time looking at different things. Angles, cover, places to shoot from, places to hide. Henry watched her move with the efficiency of someone who'd done this before, who knew what she was looking for. She was halfway to the barn when she stopped, turned, looked north. We have company, she said. Henry looked, saw nothing at first, then saw the dust. 3 riders, coming from the direction of the Broken Spur camp. Inside, Sarah said, not panicked, just matter of fact. It's my land. I know, but I need you inside. Please. Something in her voice made him listen. He went to the house, stood at the window, watching. Sarah walked to the middle of the yard, stood there, rifle across her shoulder, waiting. The 3 riders came into the yard, slowed, stopped about 20 yards out. Henry recognized them. 2 of them had been with Thorne 3 weeks ago. The third was new, younger, cocky. The lead rider smiled, not friendly. Afternoon, ma'am. Sarah didn't answer, just looked at him. We're looking for Mr. Garrett, the man continued. He's busy. We just need a minute of his time. Come back tomorrow. The smile got tighter. It's not really a request, ma'am. Sarah shifted, slight, almost imperceptible, but the rifle moved, just an inch, just enough to change from carried to ready. The 3 men noticed. You the housekeeper? The lead man asked. Sarah looked at him, didn't answer. Didn't catch your name, ma'am. I didn't throw it. A pause. The younger rider's smile faded. The lead man's eyes narrowed. "Mr. Blackwater sent us to deliver a message," he said. "His offer still stands, but the deadline's approaching. Mr. Garrett should think carefully about his decision." Sarah still didn't speak, just watched them, the way a hawk watches mice. "You understand," the man pressed. "I understand." "Good." He started to turn his horse, stopped, looked back. "You should know, ma'am, this valley's not friendly to people who make things difficult." Sarah's expression didn't change. "Neither am I." The three men looked at each other. Something passed between them. Not fear, exactly, but recognition. The kind that comes when someone realizes they've miscalculated. They rode away. Not fast, but not slow either. Sarah stood in the yard, watching until they disappeared. Then she turned, looked at the window where Henry was standing. He came outside. "What do you think?" he asked. "I think they weren't expecting you to have help." "Will they come back?" "Yes, with more men. Probably Thorne himself." Henry nodded, felt the weight of what was coming settling on him like a heavy coat. "What do we do?" Sarah looked at him. "We prepare." She walked to her horse, started unpacking her saddlebag. Henry saw what she was pulling out. Ammunition, a lot of it. Different calibers, different purposes. "You always carry that much?" he asked. "I carry what I need." "How did you know you'd need it?" She didn't answer, just kept unpacking. But Henry saw something then, saw the way her hands moved. Careful, practiced, efficient. This wasn't the first time she'd done this, and it probably wouldn't be the last. Sarah set the last box of ammunition on the porch, turned back to her saddlebag, pulled out one more thing, a small leather pouch. She opened it. Inside were cleaning tools for the rifle. And something else, something that caught the light. A spent bullet, flattened, old. Henry saw it. "What's that?" Sarah held it up, looked at it. "This is the bullet they pulled out of me 10 years ago, after the ambush." She turned it over in her fingers. "I kept it, to remind me." "Remind you of what?" "That some men don't stop until you stop them." She put it back in the pouch, put the pouch in her pocket, picked up her rifle. "I need to check something," she said. "What?" "The lead rider, the one who did the talking. What about him?" Sarah looked at Henry. Her eyes were different now, colder. He had a scar on his right hand, between the thumb and forefinger, distinctive shape, like a knife cut. So, James had a scar in the same place, same shape, same angle. She worked the bolt on the sharps, checked the chamber. He got it the night they killed him, defending himself against someone with a knife. Henry felt something cold crawl down his spine. "You think?" "I think one of the men who just rode into your yard was at the ambush 10 years ago." Sarah's voice was absolutely flat. "I think he's the one who cut my husband before they shot him." She walked toward the barn. Henry followed. "What are you going to do?" he asked. Sarah climbed the ladder to the loft, looked out the window, north, toward where the three riders had disappeared. "I'm going to wait," she said. "And when they come back, I'm going to ask him about that scar." Henry stood at the bottom of the ladder, looking up at her, at the woman his wife had sent him to find. And for the first time since Mary died, he felt something he hadn't felt in 6 years. Hope.
Every strike shapes the
Not the kind that
metal,
comes from
Deb.
thinking everything will be fine.
Same way
The
trouble
kind that
shapes a
comes from
man.
knowing that when the fight arrives, you won't be facing it alone. Sarah rode into town the next morning. Henry had offered to come with her. She'd said no. Some things you do alone, especially when you're walking back into a place that thought you were dead. The town hadn't changed much in 10 years. Same dusty Main Street, same general store, same saloon, same sheriff's office with the same faded paint on the sign. But the people had changed. Or maybe Sarah had. Hard to tell which. Hell. She tied her horse outside the general store, walked in. The storekeeper was behind the counter, older than she remembered, grayer. He looked up when the bell rang, looked at her, did a double take. "Mrs. Drummond?" Sarah nodded. "Mr. Palmer?" He stared. like he was
I wonder
seeing
what
something
tomorrow
that shouldn't
brings.
exist.
Seems quieter
thought.
than usual tonight.
That is,
Maybe
the law
that's a good
said you...
thing.
I know
Sometimes
what the
quiet
law
is all
said.
you need.
A pause.
I told you,
Palmer
Marshall, that
recovered.
shipment belongs to
Professional.
me.
What can I get
The
for you?
railroad says
Sarah
otherwise.
pulled out a list, set it on the counter. These. Palmer read it. His expression changed. Rope, lamp oil, candles, dried meat, ammunition, 3 different calibers. The shopping list of someone preparing for something bad. Mrs. Drummond, you planning on just the supplies, Mr. Palmer? He hesitated, then nodded, started gathering items. Sarah watched the street through the window, saw people noticing her horse, noticing her. Word was spreading, fast. Palmer set the items on the counter, started tallying. That'll be $8.40. Sarah paid in cash. Gold coins, not paper. Palmer noticed. You staying around? He asked carefully. For now. At Henry Garrett's place? Yes. Palmer looked like he wanted to say more, wanted to warn her, wanted to tell her something, but he didn't. Just took the money, gave her the change. Mrs. Drummond, you should know. Things have gotten complicated since you left. I know. The Broken Spur Company, they're not... I know what they are, Mr. Palmer. He nodded, went quiet, helped her carry the supplies outside. Sarah was loading her horse when she saw the blacksmith walking toward her. Jacob Ross, older now, but still strong, still solid. He stopped a few feet away, took off his hat. Mrs. Drummond, Mr. Ross, it's good to see you. Is it? Jacob smiled, sad but real. James was a good friend, a good man. I'm sorry for what happened. Sarah nodded, didn't trust herself to speak. You helping Henry? Jacob asked. I'm looking at his situation. And what do you see? Sarah looked at him, direct. I see 10 men who think an old man living alone is easy prey. I see a sheriff who's been paid to look the other way. I see a smuggling operation that's using good people's land to move bad things across the border. Jacob was quiet for a moment. Then, what are you going to do about it? What needs doing? You need help, you let me know. You have a family, Mr. Ross. I do, but I also have a memory. And I remember what James stood for. He looked at her hard. And I remember you fought just as hard as he did. Sarah felt something crack inside her chest.
I need these
Just a
supplies
little.
by sundown.
Just enough,
That's a
Thank
lot
you.
of goods, ma'am.
she said quietly.
Are you expecting trouble?
Jacob nodded, put his hat back on, walked back to his forge. Sarah finished loading her horse, was about to mount when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned. A young man, mid-20s, badge on his chest, clean face,
Begging
honest
your
eyes.
pardon, ma'am.
The kind that
The wagon
hadn't
wheel
seen
is
enough yet
repaired
to
and
stop
ready.
believing.
That's good to hear, Silas.
Mrs.
We'll fetch it
Drummond, I'm
directly.
Deputy Thomas Wade. Sarah looked at
Ma'am,
him.
I understand your
Deputy,
reluctance, but folks are saying
I
you were the
wanted to
last one to
introduce
see him.
myself. I'm
What folks say and what's
Well,
true are two different
I'm new
things,
to the
Deputy.
territory, but I've heard about what happened, about your husband. Have you? Yes, ma'am. And I wanted to say, I'm sorry. What they did, it wasn't right. Sarah studied him, saw the sincerity, saw the youth, saw someone who still thought the badge meant something. How long have you been here, Deputy? 6 months. And in those 6 months, how many complaints have you taken about the Broken Spur Company? Wade shifted. Uncomfortable. A few. How many have you investigated? He didn't answer. That's what I thought. Sarah turned back to her horse. Sheriff Shaw, he says there's not enough evidence to... Sarah turned back. Deputy Wade, let me tell you something about evidence. Evidence doesn't matter when the people who need to see it won't look. Evidence doesn't matter when the law decides that keeping the peace is more important than doing what's right. She softened, just a little. You seem like a good man.
They found
Good
him
men
down by
working
the
for
creek
bad
this
systems
morning.
don't change anything. She mounted
He was
her
your
horse.
brother.
Wade called after her. Mrs. Drummond, if you need help, if Henry needs help, you can come to me. Sarah looked down at him, saw the earnestness in his face. You willing to stand against your sheriff? If it's the right thing to do, right thing gets people killed, Deputy. I know. Sarah held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded. I'll remember that. She rode down the street, saw the sheriff's office, saw Martin Shaw standing in the doorway, watching her. Their eyes met. Shaw went pale, stepped back inside, closed the door. Sarah kept riding. She made one more stop. The doctor's office. Not because she needed medical attention, because she needed to know who in this town could be trusted when blood started flowing. Dr. Rachel Porter was organizing instruments when Sarah walked in. She looked up, did the same double take everyone else had done. Mrs. Drummond, I heard you were, that is, I thought, I'm alive. So I see. Dr. Porter set down the instruments, looked at her with the clinical assessment of someone trained to see past surfaces. What can I do for you? I need to know something. What's that? If fighting breaks out at Henry Garrett's homestead, will you come? Dr. Porter was quiet for a moment. To treat whom? Whoever needs it, including the men who might be attacking. If they're alive, to treat, yes. Dr. Porter considered this. The Broken Spur Company, they're behind this. They are. And you're helping Henry defend his land. I am. Dr. Porter walked to the window, looked out at the street, at the town she'd served for 15 years. I took an oath
We
to do
set
no
up covering
harm,
fire from the
to
barn
treat the
here,
sick and
and the
injured
wagon provides
regardless of
temporary shelter by the
circumstance.
south
They
end.
could still
That's
flank
not
us
an
from that
answer.
ridge.
Dr. Porter turned back. Yes, if there's fighting, I'll come, but I'll treat everyone who needs it. That's my answer. Sarah nodded. Fair enough. She started to leave. Dr. Porter called after her. Mrs. Drummond, may I see your shoulder? Sarah stopped. Why? Because I treated you 10 years ago, after the ambush, and I remember where you were shot. Dr. Porter gestured to a chair. Please. Sarah hesitated, then sat. Dr. Porter
Map shows the
examined the
crossing
old
right
wound,
here.
the scar
The notes
tissue,
say the trail
way
washed
Sarah's
out last
shoulder
spring.
moved.
We best stick to the high ground.
Thorough. Still causes you pain, she asked. Sometimes. When it's cold, yes. That's normal. The
Evening,
bullet
ma'am.
did nerve damage.
I heard tell you were harboring
Dr.
fugitives.
Porter stepped
Where
back.
is he?
But
That
you
ain't your
healed
concern,
well,
Deputy.
better than
Right
I
out.
expected, honestly. I had time. 10 years. Dr. Porter looked at her. Where did you go? Nowhere. 15 miles northwest. Alone. Yes. That's a long time to be alone. Sarah stood. It was exactly as long as it needed to be. Dr. Porter nodded, understanding something unspoken. Mrs. Drummond, when the fighting starts, and I think we both know it will, you be careful. That shoulder. It won't take another bullet as well as it took the first. I'll keep that in mind. Sarah walked to the door, stopped, looked back. Dr. Porter, thank you for what you did 10 years ago. You're welcome. Sarah rode out of town. Behind her, the whispers were already starting. The widow was back. The woman from the ambush. The one who'd killed 3 men before they left her for dead. She didn't look back, didn't care what they said, only cared that when the time came she'd know who would stand and who would run. Sarah got back to the homestead just before sunset. Henry was on the porch, waiting. He stood when he saw her coming. How was town? He asked. Complicated.
All right, men.
They remember
fall
you.
back. We're pulling
Some of
out.
them. She dismounted, started unloading the supplies. Henry helped. They worked in silence for a few minutes. Comfortable. The kind of quiet that comes when 2 people understand each other without needing words. I need to show you something, Henry said finally. What? Something Mary found. Something I should have shown you yesterday. Sarah looked at him, saw the seriousness in his face. Show me. They walked north. Through the grass that was starting to turn gold with the end of summer. Through the fence line, up toward the ridge. The sun was low, painting everything orange and red. The kind of light that makes the whole world look like it's on fire. Henry led her to a cluster of rocks. Big ones. Ancient. The kind that had been there longer than any person. Longer than any memory. He stopped. Pointed. There. Sarah looked. Didn't see anything at first, just rocks. But then Henry moved one aside, and she saw it. Water, trickling from between the stones. Clear, cold, beautiful. "The spring," she said. "Mary found it 31 years ago. We were just walking, looking at the land, trying to decide if this was the place, and she saw this, water where there shouldn't be any." Henry knelt, put his hand in the flow. She said this was the sign, this was where we should stay. Sarah knelt beside him, touched the water. It was ice cold, pure. "Where does it go?" she asked. "Underground. Feeds the whole valley, every creek, every well, every homestead for 10 miles. Sarah understood. If someone controlled this, they'd control everyone downstream. She stood, looked around, at the rocks, at the way they formed a natural shelter, at the view of the valley below. "This is defensible," she said. Mary thought so too. Said if trouble ever came, this was the place to fall back to. Sarah walked the perimeter, reading the ground, checking sight lines. Then she stopped, knelt. "Henry?" Something in her voice made him come over fast. She pointed. "Boot prints." Henry looked, saw them. Fresh, recent, 2 sets, leading to the spring, then away. "When?" he asked. "Yesterday, maybe the day before." Sarah followed the tracks with her eyes. 2 men. They came from the north, stayed here for 10 minutes, maybe 15, then left the same way. The broken spur. Has to be. Sarah stood, looked at the valley below, at Henry's homestead, at the barn, at the house Mary had built with him. "They know about this spring," she said quietly. "How someone talked, or someone explored, or they've been watching longer than you think." She turned to him. "Henry, this changes things." "How?" "Because now it's not just about your land. It's about the water. And if they get the water, they control everyone. Every farmer, every rancher, every family that depends on those creeks downstream." Henry sat down on a rock, suddenly tired, suddenly seeing how big this really was. "I thought they just wanted the canyon route," he said. "They want both. The canyon for smuggling, the water for control." Sarah looked at the spring, at the clear water flowing from ancient stone. "Get both, and they own this entire valley." They sat in silence as the sun set, watching the light fade, watching the stars come out. "Mary knew," Henry said finally. "Didn't she? She knew this place was important. She knew. That's why she made me promise, not just because it was our home, because it mattered to more than just us." Sarah nodded. "Your wife was smart." "She was." Henry's voice cracked, just a little. "God, I miss her." Sarah looked at him, saw the grief, the loneliness, the weight of 6 years carrying a promise alone. "Tell me about her," Sarah said quietly. Henry looked surprised. "Why? Because I need to understand what I'm fighting for, and right now I'm fighting for a promise made by a woman I never met." Henry smiled, sad but real. "You would have liked her. She was. Tough. Tougher than me. Tougher than most men I knew." He looked at the spring. "When we first came here, people said we were crazy, too isolated, too far from town, too risky. But Mary, she saw something different. She saw possibility." "What kind?" "The kind where you build something that lasts, something that matters. Not just for us, for whoever came after." He was quiet for a moment. 3 days before she died, she was lying in bed, weak, could barely speak, and she grabbed my hand, looked at me, said, "Promise me, Henry, promise me you won't let them take it." Them. She didn't say who, just them, like she knew someone would come eventually, someone who'd see what this place was worth and want it for the wrong reasons. Henry's voice got quieter. I promised. And she smiled. And that was the last thing she said to me. Sarah felt something tighten in her chest, recognized the weight Henry was carrying, because she'd carried the same weight. The weight of a promise made to someone who'd never see you keep it. James did the same thing, she heard herself say. Henry looked at her, waiting. The night before the ambush, we were camped. He was checking the horses. I was making coffee. And he came over, sat
Every
down,
strike shapes the
said
metal,
something I
Deb.
didn't understand at the time.
Same way trouble
Sarah's
shapes a
voice
man.
was steady, controlled, but quiet. He said, if something happens to me, don't let them win. Don't let the Blackwaters of the world make you stop believing good people exist. What did you say? I told him nothing was going to happen, that we'd done this 100 times, that we'd be fine. Sarah looked at the spring, at the water flowing in the last light. Next day they killed him, and I spent 10 years trying to forget he'd ever said it. Henry was quiet. Then, but you didn't forget. No. That's why you're here. Not just for me. For him. Sarah didn't answer. Didn't need to. They sat together as full dark came. Two people who'd loved, who'd lost, who'd made promises they couldn't break even if they wanted to. Finally, Henry stood. We should get back.
I wonder what
getting
tomorrow
cold.
brings.
Sarah
Seems
stood
quieter
too,
than usual tonight.
started walking,
Maybe
then
that's a good
stopped.
thing. Sometimes
Henry.
quiet is all you need.
Yes? Thank
told
you
you,
for
Marshal,
bringing
that
me
shipment
here,
belongs
for
to
showing
me.
me. It's
The
just a
railroad
spring.
says otherwise.
No. Sarah looked at him. It's why your wife made you promise. And it's why I'm staying. They walked back to the homestead under stars that were older than promises, older than grief, older than everything except the water flowing from stone that had been there before humans learned to make promises at all. 3 miles northwest, Silas Thorne sat his horse on a ridge overlooking the Garrett homestead. He'd been there for an hour, watching, waiting, learning. This was how you stayed alive in this work. Not by rushing in, not by assuming, by watching, by learning everything you could before you made a move. He'd learned a lot in the last hour. The old man wasn't alone anymore. There was a woman. She'd ridden out this morning, come back this afternoon. Thorne had watched through his spyglass, watched her move around the property, watched the way she walked. Something about her bothered him, not the fact that she was there. Plenty of homesteaders hired help when they needed it. No. What bothered him was the way she moved. Careful, aware, like someone who'd been in tight situations before and learned how to read them. Thorne adjusted the spyglass, focused on the barn, saw her come out, carrying something, a rifle, not just any rifle, a Sharps. He watched her check it, watched the efficiency, the care, the way someone handles a weapon they trust with their life, professional. That bothered him more. He lowered the spyglass, thought for a moment, then raised it again, this time focusing on her face. She turned, looked north, almost like she knew someone was watching. The light caught her features, and Silas Thorne went very still. He knew that face, not from recent memory, from old memory, the kind you spend years trying to forget. 10 years ago, different territory, different job. They'd been hired to stop a deputy marshal, James Drummond. He was escorting witnesses, testimony about smuggling routes, about who owned them, about who profited. Elias Blackwater had paid good money to make sure that testimony never reached a courtroom. The job was simple. Hit them at night, make it look random, leave no one alive to contradict the story. They'd hit the camp at midnight. 12 men,
I need these
disciplined,
supplies by
professional.
sundown.
Drummond went down
That's a
in
lot
the
of
first
goods,
volley.
ma'am.
Quick,
Are
clean,
you expecting
the
trouble?
way it's supposed to go. But then something happened that wasn't supposed to happen. Someone started shooting back, not wild, not panicked, precise, controlled, picking them off in the dark. 3 of Thorne's men went down before they even knew what was happening. It was the woman,
Begging your pardon, ma'am.
Drummond's wife.
The wagon
She'd
wheel
been
is
riding
repaired and
rear
ready.
guard.
That's
Nobody
good to
had
hear,
known.
Silas.
Nobody
We'll
had
fetch it
checked.
directly.
She fought like hell. like someone
Ma'am,
who'd
I
been
understand
trained,
your reluctance,
like
but
someone
folks are
who
saying
knew
you were the
exactly
last
what
one
she
to
was
see him.
doing.
What folks
Thorne
say and
remembered
what's
calling
true
retreat,
are two different things,
remembered
Deputy.
his men arguing, remembered saying if they stayed she'd kill more of them. They'd left her for dead, shot twice, bleeding. No way she survives in that territory overnight, but apparently she had. Thorne lowered the spyglass. His hands were shaking, just a little. Sarah Drummond, James Drummond's widow, the woman who'd killed 3 professional killers in the dark and survived wounds that should have killed her. That's who the old man had hired. Thorne sat there for a long time, thinking, calculating. This changed everything. Henry Garrett wasn't just an old man with stubborn pride anymore. He was an old man with a trained killer protecting him. A killer with a personal reason to hate the people Thorne worked for. He could ride back, tell Blackwater, say the job just got too expensive, walk away. Thorne had done that before, plenty of times. You didn't survive in this business by being stupid. You survived by knowing when the odds shifted out of your favor. But Blackwater paid well.
They found him
Very
down
well.
by the creek this
And he
morning.
had a reputation for what happened to people who quit
He was your
jobs
brother.
halfway through. The kind of reputation that made walking away dangerous in its own way. Thorne raised the spyglass one more time, watched Sarah Drummond walk across the yard, watched her stop, watched her look north again. This time he could have sworn she was looking right at him, even though she couldn't possibly see him from this distance. Could she? He lowered the spyglass, made a decision. He'd go back to camp. He'd tell the men they needed to be more careful, more prepared. But he wouldn't tell them about Sarah Drummond. Not yet. Because if they knew who she was, some of them would run. And Thorne needed every gun he had for this. But he'd bring more men, double the number, triple if he could. Because he'd seen what Sarah Drummond could do with no preparation and wounds that should have killed her. He didn't want to see what she could do when she was healthy, ready, and defending a position she'd had time to prepare. Thorne turned his horse, rode back toward camp. Behind him the sun set over the Garrett homestead, over Sarah Drummond, over the beginning of something that was going to end with blood. He just didn't know yet whose blood it would be. Back at the homestead, Sarah stood in the yard, looking north. Henry came out of the house. What is it? Someone was watching, from the north ridge. You see them? No, but they were there. How do you know? Sarah didn't answer for a moment. Then, because that's where I'd watch from, if I wanted to scout this place before attacking it. Henry looked north, saw nothing but darkness and stars. You think it was Thorne? Maybe, or one of his men. What does that mean? Sarah turned, looked at him. It means they're getting ready. Means they're not going to wait for first snow. Means we need to prepare faster than I
We set up covering
thought.
fire from the barn here,
How much
and the
time
wagon
do we
provides
have?
temporary shelter by the
Days.
south
They
end.
could still
Maybe a
flank
week.
us from that ridge.
Henry felt something cold settle in his stomach. What do we need? Sarah looked at the homestead, at the barn, at the approaches, at everything she'd been studying for the last 2 days. We need help. We need positions. We need people who know how to shoot and won't run when the shooting starts. I can shoot. I know. But we need more than just us. Who? Sarah thought about the town, about the people she'd met, about who'd looked her in the eye and who'd looked away. The blacksmith, she said.
The map shows
Jacob
the crossing
Ross.
right here.
He'll help.
But the notes say
Anyone
the trail
else?
washed out last
Maybe
spring.
the deputy,
We
Wade,
best stick to the high
if he's
ground.
willing to stand against his sheriff. That's 3 of us against 10 of them. I know. Those are bad odds. Sarah looked at him, steady,
Evening, ma'am.
calm.
I heard
I've had
tell you were
worse.
harboring fugitives.
Henry wanted to
Where is
ask what she meant.
That ain't your
Wanted to know
concern,
how someone
Deputy.
could say
Right
that
out.
with such certainty. But he didn't. Because he already knew. She'd survived an ambush that killed her husband. Survived wounds that should have killed her. Survived 10 years alone in country that broke strong men. If she said she'd had worse odds and survived, he believed her. All right, he said. What do we do first? Sarah looked at the barn, at the loft, at the window that faced north. First, she said, we make this place a fortress. Then we make sure when they come, they regret it. She walked to the barn. Henry followed. Above them, stars turned in their ancient patterns. indifferent to the small human conflicts below, indifferent to promises and grief and violence. But Sarah Drummond wasn't indifferent. She'd spent 10 years trying to be, 10 years hiding, 10 years pretending the world she'd left behind didn't matter. But some things don't stay buried, some promises don't let go, and some fights you don't get to walk away from, even when you try. 2 days later, Henry woke to the smell of smoke. He was out of bed and moving before his mind caught up with his body. Grabbed his rifle, ran to the window. The haystack.
All right, man.
The one
Fall
south
back.
of the barn.
We're pulling out.
Burning. Not the barn itself, just the hay. Controlled, calculated. A message. Sarah was already in the yard, rifle in hand, watching the flames, not trying to put them out, just watching, reading. Henry ran outside. Sarah, leave it. But it's already gone, and they want us running around panicked. Don't give them that. Henry stopped, looked at her, saw the cold focus in her eyes, the way she was scanning the perimeter, looking for movement in the pre-dawn light. Where are they? He asked. Gone. Probably been gone for an hour. Set the fire and rode out. She pointed north. That way. How do you know? Hoof prints. 3 horses, same as before. Henry watched the hay burn, felt anger rising in his chest. They're testing us. Yes. What do we do? Sarah lowered her rifle, walked toward the fence line. Henry followed. She stopped, pointed. Look. The fence, cut, 3 posts worth, clean cuts, deliberate. When? Henry asked. Last night, while we were sleeping. Sarah knelt, examined the wire. They wanted us to know they can get close, can do damage, can leave without us knowing. The cattle. Henry ran to the south pasture, saw the gap in the fence, saw the empty field beyond. His cattle were gone, all 15 head, scattered, driven off. Sarah came up beside him. They'll be in the hills, probably 3 miles north by now. We need to. No, that's what they want. Want us to chase, to leave the homestead undefended. She put a hand on his arm. We get them back later. Right now, we stay here. Henry wanted to argue, wanted to ride after his cattle, after the men who'd taken them. But he looked at Sarah's face and saw the certainty there. She'd done this before, knew how it worked, knew the patterns. All right, he said. What now? Sarah looked at the burning hay, at the cut fence, at the empty pasture. Now we know they're serious, and we get serious too. They spent the morning following the tracks, not chasing, just following, learning. Sarah moved like a ghost, reading the ground the way some people read newspapers, every hoof print, every broken branch, every disturbed stone. Henry tried to keep up, tried to see what she was seeing. How many? He asked. 3 riders, same as before. But look here. She pointed to a spot where the tracks converged. They met someone else. 4 more horses. Waited here for maybe 10 minutes. Then all 7 rode north together. 7. More are coming. Thorne's bringing reinforcements. They followed the tracks for another mile. Sarah stopped at a clearing, looked around, knelt. This is where they camped last night, before hitting your place. She picked up something, showed it to Henry. A shell casing, fresh. They were practicing, she said. Practicing what? Shooting, see the targets. She pointed to trees with fresh bark damage. They're getting ready. Henry felt the weight of it settling on him. When do you think they'll come? Sarah stood, looked north toward where the tracks disappeared into the hills. Soon. Days, not weeks. They walked back to the homestead. Sarah was quiet, thinking, planning. When they got back, she went straight to the barn, started moving things, clearing space, creating positions. What are you doing? Henry asked. Preparing. The barn loft. Best defensive position on the property. Clear sight lines, height advantage, hard to flank. She looked at him. This is where I'll shoot from when they come. And me. You'll be in the house. Second floor, east window, covers the approach from town. What about the north? I'll handle north. You just make sure nobody circles around from the road. Henry watched her work, watched her move hay bales, create firing positions, check angles. You've done this before, he said, not a question. Sarah paused, looked at him. Yes. How many times? She didn't answer, just went back to work. Henry understood. Some questions don't get answered. Some parts of the past stay private. That afternoon, Jacob Ross rode up. Henry came out to meet him. Sarah stayed in the barn, watching. Jacob, Henry said. Henry. Jacob looked around, saw the burned hay, the cut fence. I heard they paid you a visit. News travels fast. Small territory, and people talk. Jacob dismounted. You all right? We are. Henry gestured to the barn. Sarah stepped out. Jacob took off his hat. Mrs. Drummond. Mr. Ross. I brought something. Jacob pulled a rifle from his saddle. Figured you might need an extra gun. Sarah looked at him. You know what you're volunteering for? I do. Could get you killed. Could. But so could doing nothing. And I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. Sarah almost smiled. Almost. You know how to shoot that thing. Well enough. Well enough doesn't cut it when people are shooting back. Jacob met her eyes. I was at Shiloh, Mrs. Drummond, 23 years ago. I know what it's like when people shoot back. Sarah held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded. All right, come inside. I'll show you the positions. They spent the next hour setting up. Sarah assigned Jacob to the north fence line, gave him clear fields of fire, showed him where to take cover if things got bad. You're not trying to win the fight, she explained. You're trying to make them pay for every yard they gain.
Every strike shapes the metal,
make them think twice. And if
Same
they
way
don't slow
trouble
down,
shapes a man.
then you fall back to the barn. We make our stand there. Jacob nodded, understanding the strategy. Understanding that this wasn't about glory. It was about survival. As the sun started setting, Jacob prepared to leave. He stopped at his horse, looked at Sarah. Mrs. Drummond, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Why are you doing this? You could have stayed hidden, stayed safe. Why come back? Sarah was quiet for a moment. Because 10 years ago, my husband died trying to stop the people who were doing this. And I spent 10 years pretending that didn't matter. Pretending I could just forget and move on. She looked at him. Turns out I can't. Jacob nodded. James would be proud of you. James would tell me I'm being stupid, that I should ride away and let the law handle it.
Seems quieter than usual
And what would you tell him?
Maybe
Sarah
that's a good
smiled.
thing.
Sad,
Sometimes
but
quiet is
real.
all you need.
I'd tell him
I
the
told
law's
you,
too
Marshall,
slow,
that shipment
and
belongs
some
to
things
me.
you can't walk away from
The
even
railroad
when you should.
says otherwise.
Jacob mounted his horse. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll set up that bell wire system you mentioned. Bring strong rope, and don't tell anyone. Not even the deputy. Sarah thought about that. About Wade. About the earnest young man who still believed in badges and justice. Not yet, she said. But soon. The next morning, Sarah rode out alone. Henry had wanted to come. She'd said no. What she needed to do required quiet, required moving unseen, required skills he didn't have. She rode northwest, toward the canyon, toward the route she'd found 3 days ago. She needed to know more, needed to understand exactly what Blackwater was using this land for. The canyon mouth appeared after 30 minutes. Sarah dismounted, tied her horse where it wouldn't be seen, took her rifle and moved forward on foot, silent, careful, the way James had taught her. The canyon was quiet, too quiet. No birds, no insects, the kind of silence that comes when predators are near. Sarah moved deeper, following the wagon ruts she'd seen before, following the evidence of recent traffic. A quarter-mile in, she found it, a cache, hidden under rocks and brush, carefully concealed, but not carefully enough for someone who knew what to look for. She moved the rocks aside, saw what was underneath. Crates, stamped with markings, Mexican railway companies, U.S. Army supply depots, mining operations from 3 different territories. She opened one, saw rifles, new ones, still in factory grease. Opened another, ammunition, thousands of rounds. A third, silver ingots, stamped with Mexican government seals. Sarah sat back, understanding hitting her like cold water. This wasn't just smuggling, this was infrastructure, a full operation. Moving guns south, moving silver north, moving stolen goods in both directions. Using the canyon as a highway that law enforcement didn't know existed, and Henry's land controlled access to it all. She heard something, froze. Voices, coming from deeper in the canyon. Sarah moved, fast, silent, got behind cover, waited. 2 men appeared, walking the route, checking it. One of them was carrying a map, the other had a notebook. She watched them stop,
goods, ma'am.
watched them make notes.
Are you expecting
Watched them
trouble?
point at different features of the canyon. They were surveying, planning, getting ready to move bigger shipments. The men passed within 20 feet of her, never knew she was there. She waited until they were gone, then moved back to the cache, took one of the silver ingots,
Begging your pardon, ma'am.
pocketed it.
The wagon wheel is repaired and
Then
ready.
she covered the
That's
cache
good to
back
hear,
up,
Silas. We'll
made
fetch
it
it
look
directly.
untouched. She needed to get this information
Ma'am,
to
I understand
someone,
your reluctance, but
someone
folks
who
are
could
saying
do
you were the
something
last
about
one to
it.
see him.
but
What
who?
folks say and
Not
what's true are
Sheriff
two
Shaw.
different things, Deputy.
He was bought. The U.S. Marshal was 4 days' ride away. By the time he got here, it would be too late. Sarah thought about it as she made her way back to her horse, thought about the options, the possibilities, and realized something that made her blood run cold. Blackwater couldn't let Henry live, not anymore. Even if Henry sold, even if he walked away, he'd seen too much, knew too much. The cache was on his land. The route crossed his property. He was a witness, and Blackwater didn't leave witnesses. That's why they've been escalating, not to scare Henry into selling, to justify killing him, to make it look like an old man who'd refused to be reasonable, who'd brought trouble on himself. Sarah mounted her horse, rode hard back to the homestead. She needed to tell Henry, needed to tell him that selling wasn't an option anymore, that this had stopped being about land ownership and started being about survival. She reached the homestead just after noon, found Henry working on the fence. Henry.
They
He looked
found
up,
him down by the
saw
creek
her
this
face,
morning.
stood. What is it?
It was your
We
brother.
need to talk. Inside. They went to the house. Sarah showed him the silver ingot, told him what she'd found, told him about the cache, about the surveying, about what it meant. Henry listened, his face getting paler with each word. So even if I sold, they'd kill you anyway. You know too much. You've seen too much. Henry sat down, heavy, like the weight of the world had just settled on his shoulders. Mary knew, he said quietly. Didn't she? That's why she made me promise. She knew someone would try to use this land for something bad, and she knew they'd kill for it. Sarah nodded. Your wife was smart, smarter than anyone gave her credit for. What do? We get word out, to the U.S. Marshal, to someone who can shut this down. Sarah paced, thinking. And we hold this position until help arrives. How long will that take? 4 days, maybe 5. If someone rides tonight. Who? Sarah thought about it, about who they could trust, who would be believed, who had the authority to be taken seriously. Shaw, she said, if we can convince him to ride, to do the right thing for once. Shaw won't help us. He will if he understands what's really happening. If he knows this isn't just about land. If he knows Blackwater's running guns and silver through federal territory. Sarah looked at Henry. Shaw's afraid, but he's not evil. Give him a way to be brave and he might take it. And if he doesn't, then we hold this place for as long as we can, and we make Blackwater pay for every inch. Deputy Wade found them that evening. He rode up slow, hands visible, not threatening, just careful. Sarah met him in the yard, rifle across her shoulder, not pointing at him, but ready. Deputy,
Sergeants, we
Mrs.
set up
Drummond,
covering
I
fire
need
from
to
the
talk
barn
to you.
here, and the wagon
About-
provides temporary
about
shelter
what's
by the south
happening.
They
end.
could still
about
flank
the
us from
broken
that
spur,
ridge.
about, he paused, about who you really are. Sarah's expression didn't change. And who am I? Wade dismounted, took off his hat. You're Sarah Drummond, wife of Deputy Marshal James Drummond, killed 10 years ago trying to stop the Blackwater smuggling operation. He looked at her. You were there when he died. You fought. You survived. Who told you? Jacob Ross. He came to me this morning, told me everything. Wade's voice was steady, earnest.
Map shows the
He
crossing
said,
right here.
You're the
But the
only
notes say
person
the
in this
trail washed
territory
out
who has
last
a
spring.
chance of stopping
We'd
what's
best
happening.
stick to the high
And
ground.
he said if I wanted to be a real lawman, I needed to help you. Sarah studied him. Young, idealistic, but something else in his eyes now.
Evening, ma'am.
Something harder.
I heard tell you were harboring
understanding.
fugitives. Where is
What
he?
about Shaw?
That ain't your
She
concern,
asked.
Deputy. Right out.
Shaw's scared. He's not coming. Did you ask him to ride for the marshal? I did. He refused. Sarah felt anger flash through her, controlled it. Then we do it ourselves. I'll go, Wade said. I'll ride tonight, get to the marshal, bring him back. That's 4 days at least, maybe 5. I know. Can you hold that long? Sarah looked at the homestead, at the barn, at the defensive position she'd been preparing. We can hold. Wade nodded, started to mount, stopped. Mrs. Jones, Jacob told me what you did 10 years ago. How many men you... I did what I had to do. I know. I wanted you to know. I don't think you're a killer. I think you're someone who protects people. And I'm glad you're here. Sarah felt something crack inside her. Just a little. Thank you, Deputy. Wade, just Wade. Wade. He mounted his horse. I'll be back. With the marshal. With help. Just hold on. We will. Wade rode out, east, toward the territorial capital, toward help that was days away. Sarah watched him go, then turned, saw Henry standing on the porch. He's a good kid, Henry said. He is.
All right,
Think he'll
man,
make it.
fall back.
If he rides
We're pulling
hard and
out.
doesn't stop. They stood there for a moment, in the gathering dark, knowing that the clock was ticking now, knowing that they had days, maybe less. Sarah, Henry said quietly, if this goes bad, it won't. But if it does, I want you to know, I'm grateful for what you're doing, for coming back, for... Henry, stop. He looked at her, saw the way she was standing, rigid, controlled, like if she let herself feel too much, something would break. All right, he said, I'll stop. They went inside, had a quiet dinner, didn't talk much, didn't need to. After dark, Jacob returned, brought rope, brought wire, brought tools. They worked by lamplight, setting up the bell system, running wire from the fence lines to the barn, creating an early warning system, simple, effective. When they finished, Sarah tested it, walked the north fence, brushed against the wire. In the barn, a bell rang, clear, loud. It works, Jacob said. Good. Now we'll know when they're coming. They stood in the yard, 3 of them, an old man, a blacksmith, a widow, against 10 professional killers working for a man with money and power and no conscience. Bad odds, worse than bad. But Sarah had faced worse, had survived worse, and this time she had something she hadn't had 10 years ago. Time to prepare, position to defend, people who wouldn't run. They'll come soon, she said. Tomorrow, maybe the day after, but soon. How do you know? Henry asked. Because they know we're getting ready, and every day we have is a day they don't want us to have. Jacob checked his rifle. Then we'd better get some sleep, while we can. They separated, Jacob to his home, Henry to his bed, Sarah to the barn loft. She didn't sleep, just sat there, rifle across her lap, watching the darkness, waiting for the bell to ring, for the fight to start, for the moment when everything she'd been preparing for would finally come. In the distance, thunder rumbled, storm coming, cold front moving in from the north. Sarah smiled. No humor in it, just recognition. Weather would slow them down, make them wet, make them cold, make them miserable before the fighting even started. Good. Let them be miserable. Let them be cold. Let them understand what it feels like to fight for something when the world itself is against you. She settled in, checked her ammunition one more time, counted rounds, planned shots, and waited. Because that's what you do before a fight. You prepare, you plan, you wait. And when it finally comes, you don't hesitate. Don't think. Don't feel. You just do what needs doing. The way James had taught her, the way she'd been doing for 10 years, the way she'd keep doing until either Blackwater was stopped or she was dead. And Sarah Drummond had no intention of dying. Not yet. Not until this was finished. Not until the promise was kept. The bell rang at 3 in the morning. Sarah was already awake. She'd heard the horses before the wire caught them, had counted hoofbeats in the dark. 10 men, coming from the north, exactly as she'd expected. She was in the barn loft, Sharp's rifle loaded, extra ammunition within reach, position chosen for maximum field of fire and minimum exposure. The bell rang again. West approach. Henry appeared at the barn door below. "Sarah, stay in the house. East window. Watch the road." "How many?" "All of them." Henry disappeared. Sarah heard him moving inside the house, taking position, getting ready. Jacob was already at the north fence line. She could see his shadow against the starlight, rifle ready, waiting. The storm had passed, left the ground wet, the air cold, everything sharp and clear. Sarah settled the Sharps against her shoulder, waited. They came just before dawn. Not rushing, not charging. Professional. Spread out. 3 from the north, 4 from the west, 3 more holding back. Reserve. Silas Thorne, leading from behind, the way commanders do. Sarah let them get close. 60 yards, 50, 40. Then she fired. The lead rider's horse stumbled. Not hit. The ground in front of it erupted. Dirt and rock spraying, the horse reared. The rider fought to control it. Message sent. "I see you. I'm not missing. I'm choosing." The north group spread wider, looking for cover, finding none. This was open ground, deliberate. Sarah had cleared it 3 days ago. She worked the bolt, chambered another round, fired again. This time the bullet found flesh. Thigh shot. The rider went down, screaming. Not dead, wounded. Exactly where she'd aimed. Jacob opened up from the fence line, not trying for precision, just volume. Keep them pinned, keep them thinking. The west group tried to flank, came in fast. 4 riders. Sarah pivoted, acquired, fired. The lead horse stumbled, the rider tumbled, got up, limping, crawled for cover. 3 more shots from the house. Henry, his Winchester barking, not hitting anyone, but close enough to make them reconsider. The west group pulled back, regrouped. Silence for a moment, just breathing, just the smell of gunpowder and wet earth. Then it started again, this time coordinated. Both groups pushing simultaneously, trying to split Sarah's attention, trying to overwhelm. She chose targets, fired, worked the bolt, fired again. Each shot deliberate, each shot finding something. Horse, saddle, rider. Not killing, not yet, just making them pay, making them understand the cost. Jacob was firing steadily, methodical, the way old soldiers do, conserving ammunition, making each shot count. One of the North riders made it to the fence line, dismounted, started forward on foot. Sarah tracked him, led him, squeezed. He went down, shoulder shot, spun him around, dropped him. The attack faltered. The riders pulled back, not far, just out of immediate range. Regrouping, reassessing. Sarah counted. 4 men down, not dead, wounded, out of the fight. 6 still operational, plus Thorne. Not bad. 30 seconds of contact, 4 casualties, 0 friendly hits. She reloaded, hands steady, breathing controlled, the way James had taught her. Below, Henry called up. "Sarah, you hit." "No, you." "No, they're pulling back." "They're not pulling back, they're getting ready for round 2. She was right. 5 minutes later they came again, this time on foot, using the darkness, moving low, professional. Sarah switched to the Winchester. Better for moving targets, better rate of fire. She fired at muzzle flashes, at shadows, at movement in the pre-dawn dark. Jacob was doing the same, creating a wall of lead, not accurate, but volume, density, making the approach costly. 2 more men went down, one crawling back, one not moving. Then she heard it. Hoofbeats. From the south. Someone was coming. Dawn broke cold and gray. Sarah saw them clearly now. Thorne and 5 men. 3 wounded. 2 still operational. Bad odds for them. And they knew it. But the hoofbeats from the south, that was new. That changed things. Sarah turned, saw riders coming fast, counted. 12 men, led by someone in a dark coat, badge catching the early light. Marshal. Wade had made it, brought help. Thorne saw them too. She watched him through the rifle scope, watched his face change, watched the calculation. Fight was lost. Contract was void. Time to cut losses. He called to his men, gestured. They started pulling back, loading wounded, moving north. Sarah tracked Thorne through the scope. Had the shot. Clean, easy, 200 yards, no wind. Her finger touched the trigger. Light, gentle. Then stopped. James wouldn't have taken it. Not a man retreating, not a man making the smart choice. She lowered the rifle. Thorne looked back. Once. Met her eyes across the distance. Nodded. Once. Professional respect. Then rode north. Sarah watched them disappear into the hills. Let them go. The marshal and his posse rode into the yard. Wade dismounted. Ran to the barn. Mrs. Drummond, you all right? Fine. Henry, fine. Jacob, fine. Wade looked at the yard, at the wounded men, at the evidence of the fight, at the defensive positions, at what one woman had done. Jesus, he breathed. The marshal walked over. Older man, gray beard, hard eyes. Mrs. Drummond, I'm Marshal Kane. Deputy Wade briefed me on the situation. Sarah climbed down from the loft, faced him. Marshal, we found the cache, the canyon route, the evidence Wade described. Kane looked around. But I'm guessing we're too late for Elias Blackwater. He ran 2 days ago, when Thorne failed the first attack. You know where, Mexico, or deeper into the territory, somewhere law can't reach easily. Kane nodded. We'll put out warrants, watch the border. But men like Blackwater, they have ways of disappearing. Sarah understood. Justice was slow, incomplete, imperfect. But the route's shut down, she asked. It is. Federal seizure. We're posting guards. No more smuggling through that canyon. Good. Kane looked at her. I knew your husband. James. He was a good man. Good marshal. He was. He'd be proud of what you did here. Sarah didn't answer. Didn't know what to say to that. 3 days later the territory settled. The wounded broken spur men were in custody. Talking. Giving testimony. Trying to reduce sentences. Thorne had vanished. Smart man. Knew when to disappear. Blackwater was gone. Warrants issued, but no one expected him to be caught. Men like him had resources, had connections, had ways out. The canyon route was shut down. Federal guards posted. The smuggling operation dismantled. For now. Henry's land was his. Title secured. Spring protected. Promise kept. Wade had been offered a position with the Marshal Service. He'd accepted. Would ride out next week. Become the kind of lawman he'd always wanted to be. Jacob had gone back to his forge. Back to his life. With a story he'd probably never tell. Dr. Porter had treated the wounded. All of them. No questions. No judgment. Just medicine. And Sarah. Sarah stood at Mary's grave. Alone. The stone simple. The ground peaceful. I kept it, Mary, she said quietly. Your Henry's land. Your promise. I kept it. The wind moved through the grass. No answer. Just wind. Sarah turned, looked at the valley, at the homestead, at the ridge to the north. Henry came walking up, stood beside her, quiet, respectful. What now? He asked finally. Sarah thought about it, about the cabin 15 miles northwest, about the life she'd tried to build alone, about 10 years of hiding. "I'm not going back," she said. "No, no, but I'm not staying here either." Henry looked at her, understanding but not understanding. "Where then?" Sarah pointed. "To the ridge, to the high ground overlooking the valley, the place Thorne had watched from, the place with clear sight lines in every direction. There. You're building a cabin, small, simple, clear view." "Why?" Sarah was quiet for a long moment. "Because Blackwater's still out there. Because men like him don't stop. They just wait, plan, try again." She looked at Henry. "Someone needs to watch, to be ready. And that's you. That's me." 2 weeks later the cabin was finished. 1 room, good roof, clear sight lines, not a home, a position. Sarah moved in, brought her rifle, her ammunition, her few possessions. Henry came once a week, brought supplies, never stayed long, understood what this was. Jacob visited once, looked at the setup, nodded approval, said nothing. Wade stopped by before leaving for martial training, thanked her, promised to come back someday. And Sarah watched the valley, watched the approaches, watched for threats that might come, might not, but could. She kept the sharps by the door, kept ammunition ready, kept her skills sharp. Some evenings she sat on the porch, watched sunset paint the valley gold and red, thought about James, about Mary, about promises and grief and the ground people stand on. She'd spent 10 years trying to bury who she was, trying to forget, trying to be invisible. But some things don't stay buried. Some promises don't let go. Some fights don't end. They just pause. And when they start again, someone needs to be ready. Sarah Drummond was ready, would always be ready. The watcher on the ridge, the guardian of the valley, the woman who'd learned that the ground you stand on is never just ground. It's everyone who stood on it before you, everyone who'll stand on it after. Every promise made, every life lived, every battle fought. She looked north, toward the territory Blackwater had fled to, toward the future that would come eventually. And she waited, because that's what watchers do. They wait, they watch, they remember. And when the time comes, they act. Not with rage, not with revenge, just with the quiet certainty of someone who knows what needs doing and does it. The valley below was peaceful, the homesteads safe, the water flowing from Mary's spring. For now. And for now was enough. Sarah Drummond settled into her chair, rifle within reach, eyes on the horizon, watching, always watching.